What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another video on my channel. I've started this intro like 6 times and I keep starting it over, and I don't know why I'm so not worried about the intro, but usually I just get right into the freaking swing. So this is gonna be my this is just my last shot, I feel like, guys. So today I wanted to share a personal experience and just the past 3 years of my life, basically not owning a car for the first time in my life, well, since obviously learning to drive. I wanted to share with you guys because I feel like I have made this pretty public over the past few years that I don't own a car. I do still drive and you guys know I'm kind of always on the road and always traveling, so I kind of wanted to talk about my experience, not personally owning a car, but still like traveling and taking adventures. But okay, I hope you guys maybe get something out of this video. It's kind of something that I feel like I wanted to make, and I'm not sure how many people will be able to relate to this, but I thought, well, let's just share my experience, talk about the positives and negatives, and overall just kind of reflect on what this has taught me as an individual. All right, so I got my license when I was 16, like several of us when we're in high school and we're super excited about starting to drive. So I started driving when I was 16. At that point, I shared a car with my brother, and it was like my dad's old car that he had lent down to my brother, and then me and my brother kind of shared it. This car was, and my sister actually had it too when she started driving. This car went through a lot. Miss Toyota Camry, I think she was like a 2000 or maybe a 1999 gold Toyota Camry. She did my family well, y'all. She really did. When I was 18, I bought my first car, my baby, and then we kind of get into the years of mistakes when I've talked about this in a video I uploaded earlier this year, which a ton of you guys enjoyed. That video was called like my biggest financial mistakes, my biggest financial regrets. I'll have a card to it up here, either this side or this side. I'll also link it down below if you guys missed that video. I feel like most of you saw it, but in that video I talked about when I was 21 and I had just finished paying off my first car that I just mentioned to you I got when I was 18, and I purchased another car and traded in my first car for a new car, which, you know, looking back at the time, I was so excited. I was like, I deserve this. Like, I deserve to treat myself. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just gonna trade in my car that I've had for another car and I'm gonna be happier. I wouldn't say it's like a regret that I got the car, because the car treated me so well. Alejandro, I love your work. You are a king. It was my first convertible I ever owned, and it was just such an exciting time in my life, being like 21 and buying my own convertible and driving around LA. I mean, that's literally kind of living the freaking dream, right? And that was something that I was so proud and so excited to be able to do at that time in my life. But if you guys heard what I said in that video, I just feel like it was a rushed decision on my part, and I bought that car on a whim, and I didn't really think about financing it. Well, I did. I set up a financing plan. I did think about financing it, but I didn't really think about like down the road after like a year or two if I really even, you know, needed the car, if it was just more of an impulse purchase. So I got that car. I actually drove it around for about a year with like no really problems, no big problems. It took me on a bunch of road trips and a bunch of really fun adventures that were vlogged, and just a bunch of great people sat in that car and a bunch of really great memories, honestly. But I did only have the car for a year before I ended up selling it. And I've kind of talked about this in videos before, so if you've heard this story and it's a broken record, I'm sorry. This is like the kind of the starting point of the video, is like, why did you get rid of having a car? Why did you decide you wanted to go carless? And at this point in my life, there was several reasons that contributed to this. So in the time that I like got my new car, within 6 months, a year, I had finished college and I had moved from like West Hollywood in Los Angeles to downtown LA, which in downtown LA, I mean, yes, if you're leaving the city, if you're leaving downtown all the time, okay, have a car. It makes sense to have a car if you're leaving downtown all the time, but I really wasn't. And at this point, like, I moved downtown and I had my car in the tiny parking lot under my apartment building, which is another like tragic thing about LA. Sometimes you'll get a whole parking space, but my building, they had like a service that you had to pay $225 a month if you wanted to keep your car under the building, just to keep it under the building, and you didn't even get a designated parking spot. It was such a small parking little space in downtown that they had to like keep all the cars lined up against each other, so a guy would go and get it for you and you would have to like call ahead and be like, can I get my car in 5 minutes? and pay $225 a month to do that for like valet service. But like I said, you guys, it was more of an annoyance than anything because I didn't get to have a parking spot. I didn't get to pull my car in myself, and it was just expensive and annoying. So that was a big thing that I started to be like, you know what? I started adding up like all these different costs, and I realized I wasn't even taking my freaking car out more than maybe 1 or 2 times a week, a lot of weeks. And I was realizing how much I was paying for my car, and I lived in downtown, so I was walking a bunch of places, and also it's like a nice just quick Uber ride to get anywhere in LA. So living in such a big city like that has an Uber or Lyft 1 minute away at any time of the day, like you don't really need a car. Obviously it's great to have one if that's important to you, but I started realizing like, oh my god, I'm still financing my car, which was very expensive because I chose to do, I think, like a 2 or 3 year financing plan. I think it was 2 years, so I wanted to pay it off in 48 months, so it was a pretty expensive financing plan. So not only did I have that $225 parking charge under my building every month, but I had a super expensive car financing plan every month, and then also insurance every single month. My insurance was pretty high because I lived in California, I was a young driver. Obviously gas and parking, when you live in LA, you have to pay for parking like all the freaking time. Just it'll be like $20 to park in a lot in Venice Beach for like an hour, and you're just like, oh. So all these things I just started thinking about, and I was like, you know what? Frig this, like I love my car, but it didn't matter if I had like an expensive car or not so expensive of a car. It was like all these charges were still going to be a thing just by owning a car and by driving. And also driving in LA is pretty annoying because you're always stuck in traffic, and you probably hear about drivers in LA. So I just kind of was like, you know what? I guess I'll just sell my car, like let's just do it. So luckily my dad really helped me with that. My dad helped me to sell my car, and we did. And this was, like I said, 3 years ago. I sold her and I didn't have a car anymore. I like watched her, a big truck came to like pick her up, and I was just like, bye Alejandro, it's nice knowing you. Literally since then I've been carless, and I really didn't think it would be this long. Like looking back, it's been such a freaking long time, over 3 years now. And so now I want to get into the part of the video where I talk about the pros and cons of not having a car. And not to influence you guys, I'm not making this video to be like, you guys don't need a car. If you have a car, that's just bad and you don't even need it. I'm really not being like that because I totally understand. Like, I'm freaking getting a car again. That's what I've been saving up for the past few months. And now I live in a city where I do still live close to downtown, so I don't need a car living where I do now, but it's definitely more of a need and a want now as opposed to when I lived in LA, because now I just want to like drive out of Boise, and I want to like go into the mountains, and I want to go explore more places and drive out of the state and all these things. So more things that you actually like would want a car for. So guys, let's go ahead. Now that you know the background info. That was a pretty long background, Lindsay. You know, first let's talk about the positives. I don't know, because I have that written down first. So obviously not ever having to pay for gas. Car problems are the worst because you just don't know like how much it's gonna be, and your car can just like get into some fuck shit, and you're like, what the frick happened? Like my tires need to be replaced. You just have to get all that stuff fixed up, and sometimes you're like, I just didn't like set aside obviously money for this. So car problems, insurance, car payments, and parking. Sometimes if you live in a city where you never have to pay for parking, that's pretty nice. But if you live in like a big city, you're definitely gonna have to. So all these charges, obviously, the biggest pro I think is saving money, because cars, well, you can obviously have a car and it can be very, very affordable. A lot of times there's just these unknown costs plus gas, plus car insurance and all the things. This isn't super accurate, but based off of what I was paying every single month when the time I was living in LA, I did a little calculation of on average how much I was spending for my car at the time per month. Now, once again, this could be off by a few $100s because I don't remember exactly how much my insurance was every month, but I remember how much my car payment was every month. I remember how much the parking under my building was, and then I averaged out parking charges and gas charges for the month, which could have been higher or lower. On an average month, I spent over $1,000 to own the car that I did at the time. $1,055 is the average of what I calculated, once again, minus plus a few $100s. And then I multiplied that by the time that I lived in LA, in downtown LA, after I sold my car, which was 13 months. So I multiplied that by 13 and it ended up being $13,000, well, $13,715 on average saved personally for me. Once again, this was personally for me. Saved just from the rest of the time I lived in LA after I sold a car, not owning a car. Now, obviously, that's not gonna be completely accurate because after that I spent a lot more money per month on Lyft and Uber, which would be interesting to see how much those ended up being on average per month. All right, now let's get into the other positives. One of the biggest positives that I figured out quickly that was so great about not owning a car was never having to be the designated driver and never having to like worry about going out to a restaurant and having 1 to 2 drinks and then driving home after that. It was just so nice. This is kind of like from a selfish place, I guess, but it was just so nice to never have to like be the DD, or even if I was the DD driving someone else's car, like that's totally fine, but I never had to like worry about anything having to do with going out and having fun, like going out to the bars and then being like, oh my god, wait, did I bring my car out tonight? Not that I ever really would do that anyway. I'm always a Lyft and Uber girl. I always have been ever since before even college. I've literally ever since Uber came out, like every single time that I'm gonna be drinking or going out or anything, even if it's just to go to a dinner and I think I might have 1 or 2 drinks, Uber or walk all the way. So I think if there's Uber or Lyft or another service like that in your city, I feel like getting into the habit of doing that if you do go out and drink is obviously just like such a smart option, right? So that's something that I firmly believe in. Having to do with safety also, I would say another point is I had so many like driving scares when I was living in LA. Once again, just living in a big city where there's a bunch of drivers from all over the place and kind of more aggressive drivers. Like I had a ton of scares where I would get like rear-ended, or I would be like, there would be like a car coming and skipping a stop sign, and it would just be like, whew, so many moments where you're like, oh my god, I could have literally fucking died. Next thing, not having a car inspired me to actually get a little bit into biking, and also inspired me to just start walking more places. Like now I live about a 15 to 20 minute walk from anywhere in downtown Boise, and you know, that's a really nice walk. I mean, not if it's cold in the winter, but right now in the spring and summer it is such a nice walk. But if I am in a hurry to try and get somewhere to downtown, like a dinner reservation, I'll just take a quick Lyft. But besides that, I actually, once I moved to Boise, I got kind of into biking, so I'll do like quick little bike rides around, and that's really nice, especially when it's nice out. There's nothing that feels better than like feeling the little crisp wind on your cheeks, on your shoulders when you're on a bike. So that's something that I never really thought I would be into, to be completely honest with you, but not having a car made me get a little bit into the biking. Okay, another big positive that I thought about, and I was like, oh my gosh, 3 years of not driving a car, not owning a car, not putting that out into the environment. Good freaking job, Lindsay. I don't know, I just feel good about that. Obviously it inspired me to ride with friends and carpool more, and obviously taking Lyft, a ride sharing service, is obviously better. Just overall great for the environment. Last thing is just, again, mostly when I was living in LA, not dealing with traffic. Oh my god, I would spend so many hours in, like, not expecting it, just like getting stuck in LA traffic, even at the randomest times of night. I swear at like 12 a.m, midnight, sometimes on the freeway, you'll just completely stop, like standstill traffic, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? Like an accident or something? But I would say not dealing with traffic has been such a positive, it's just benefited my life in so many ways. So we love that. Okay, now I'm gonna get into the negatives of not having a car, what it taught me that I wasn't really expecting, that were definitely some big negatives. I've gotten into some of these topics in previous videos, but the biggest one for me, besides just the convenience of like having a car being taken away, the biggest one for me was going on road trips and needing to rent a car, or just anytime I needed to like For example, if I wanted to go to San Francisco for the weekend, it's like, it's such a big ordeal to rent a car when you're under 25 years old. And it's just like such a freaking expensive hassle, especially if you're renting a car for more than a few days, because they will charge you every single day for being underage. So obviously if you're over 25, which I'm gonna be in September of this year, when I will actually already have a car, so it doesn't really matter. But if you're over 25, you have this so easy, because you don't get that stupid charge, at least here in America. But that was something I really realized. So I talked about this whole story in, once again, my financial mistakes video. But basically the first time me and my sister rented a car for a big 2-week road trip, after like the first year of me not having a car, because she didn't have one at the time either, and we would always just take my car. But this year we just had to pay like $2,000 to have a rental car, the most basic rental car available, for 2 weeks. It was because every single day we got charged the underage fee, and then the insurance, because you obviously have to get insurance if you don't have car insurance when you're renting a car. So all of these things and all of the gas and everything, it was over $2,000 for 2 weeks. And we were like, shit, you know, if I had just had my car, we obviously would have only had to pay for the gas. We wouldn't have had to pay for anything else. So that's definitely something to think about, because I am such a road tripper and such a traveler. So that's been the biggest inconvenience to me. But rented cars in general, I just have a huge thing with rental car companies. I think they're such a scam, and they're such, not scam, but I think they're such a ripoff, and they could be ran so much better, where they don't make you pay for all the stuff that you're not aware that you're paying. Anyway, going further, obviously, like I said before, the convenience of having your car available whenever is just so nice. Luckily for me, the reason I haven't gotten one since moving to Boise is because my boyfriend has a car, and so he'll drive me a ton of places. So the only time I'm really craving to have a car is when he is at work and I want to like go do errands, or I want to go do something that I can't do because his car is not here. But also having to rely on someone to drive you is not a great feeling, so I definitely don't like that. I am the type of person that I actually really like driving, and I like driving alone and listening to music. So that is actually a negative that I wasn't really expecting, just to like miss the simple pleasure of driving and listening to music, because that was one of my big mood boosters. I would like go on late night drives with my sister in LA, and you know, whatever it is, go to like Chick-fil-A or go to get snacks or something like that. Just fun little things like that. Another thing I wrote down is lots and lots of Lyft and Uber rides, obviously. Damn, I've taken, like I said, I've taken thousands of, I'm a Lyft girl now. I used to be an Uber girl, but I support Lyft a lot more now, and I only use their service. Unless I literally can't get a Lyft, then I'll get an Uber. But so many Lyft and Uber rides, a lot more weird ones than others, and a lot more just boring ones than others. I don't know. I'm kind of now like just so used to being a passenger in a Lyft or Uber, because I do it usually at least once, 2, 3 times a week, sometimes multiple times in a day if I'm traveling. So you get really used to that, I feel like. But that's kind of a con unless you get thrill out of being in Lyft and Ubers all the time. But you know, there's some things you can't control when you're in, you know, when someone else is driving. There's just certain things that you can't control. But then it's really nice sometimes to not worry about driving and not worry about making those turns and worry about other drivers. So it's kind of a positive and negative in itself. Living in Boise now, compared to LA, I do feel like that need for a car a little bit more, not like a need, more of a want for a car now, because I don't need one just to go downtown, and like I have everything that I need quickly available to me by walking, biking, or Lyft here in the city. But definitely for getting out of the city and going north and taking road trips and going to visit my sister and going to visit my brother who live in neighboring states, all those things, that is what I'm excited to have my own car again for, because you guys know I am such a traveler and such a road tripper, and I do miss, that is my biggest thing that I miss, is being able to go on a road trip, just like plan it for the weekend and just get out of town. That is like the biggest thing that I miss, which you can still do by renting a car, but it's just not as fun. I don't know if anyone related to this video, but maybe you got something out of it if you made it until the end. Thanks for watching and listening to me ramble for 20-25 minutes, however long this video was. I hope maybe hearing my experience was either helpful or entertaining or educational. If you are a person that is thinking about owning a car and you live in a bigger city that has Lyft or Uber, maybe some of these points helped you decide yes or no on that. At some point this summer, I will be a car owning gal again, which I am excited for, especially after 3 years. It's like, it feels like it's time now to close that gap of my life, and I feel good about the time that and the money that I have saved so far, but I am ready for that responsibility again. And thank you guys so much for watching, listening to me ramble. I'm gonna go eat a snack now and then film another video. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching.